I don't know. That's a good. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't. Well. Just you and me. No, God, please, no. And I'll give them back. I can't stand. I have too many binders. Yes. Now that's just my personal opinion. Okay. I'm gonna start. You want to text her?
Mind if I just toss her? Yeah.
Sorry, it's gonna be a longer than 1 minute. Good morning. Yes, please sit down. That's better than the hustle and bustle. We're calling Shirley, so since we are short. How are you, Dr. Good to see you. Everything. Thank you. I don't know. No, but I think her sister. That's what I'm kidding. But she is 8.
That's the light of Proctor. She's at the light of Proctor, so you make the decision which one. So we can't start, or we can start without her. Dr. Bowden. You can start without her. You said we can start without her.
Okay.
No votes to be official.
We don't take votes at workshop. So now it's a real 1 minute warning.
No head nodding will be official.
That's a
Microphone
joke.
is on.
No, unofficial. So if I do this, this doesn't count.
I never did.
Hey, Dr. Moore.
Hey, Mr. Robinson. I know you up because you didn't recognize me because I cut my hair, but I see you cut yours too, huh? You cut your hair because I cut my hair?
Yes, ma'am. I'm a little mini you.
I see you.
You. Oh, that's a scary thought.
And we're going to say next
Good morning.
the slide number. We share that with you.
Welcome to the November 28th, 2017 School Board Workshop. In Chair Zucker's absence as sitting vice chair, I'll be running the meeting today. First on the agenda is improvement strategies to affect student performance, McIntosh Middle and Wilkinson. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm just going to introduce someone who needs no introduction, and she can introduce her team. But Dr. Moore has been the principal at McIntosh for 6 years. Prior to that, she was at Phoenix Academy, and prior to that, she was at Riverview. So she has lots of experience, and we're looking forward to hearing about McIntosh.
Excellent. Thank you. And good morning to the school board members I can see and those who are watching from afar. Superintendent Dr. Bowden. Good to see Bowden. I can say Bowden because we won this weekend.
That's
yes.
right.
And thank you so much, Dr. Kingsley. For that
That's one. We'll keep track.
Well, you know, a W is a W. We'll take it any way we can. But I thank you so much for inviting us to share the wonderful strategies that we're implementing at McIntosh Middle School to positively impact student performance. I have with me this morning 2 very important members of my team, our assistant principal, Lindsay Sogi, and the progress monitoring and master scheduler, Ms. Deanne Panaghetti. Good morning. I wanted to just move right into talking about what we're doing at McIntosh. If you could go to slide number 2, please. Just even in terms of our preparation for our year this year, we have really gone all out. And when you enter McIntosh Middle School's administration building, this is what you see above the entrance. And it is that we are committed to knowing our impact, and we are in it to win it with respect to our student performance this year. Next slide, please. We'll briefly review our 2016-17 comparison of our data, which drove our strategic plan to improve student achievement for McIntosh Middle School. Next slide, please. As you can see, there was a decrease in our achievement, about 4 percentage points. Learning gains, 1 percentage point, and our lower quartile, 8 percentage points. Next slide, please. In math, there was a 1 percentage point decrease in achievement. We're very excited to report that there was an increase of 4 percentage points in our learning gains and an increase of 6 percentage points in our lower quartile. Next slide, please. On our science acceleration and social studies, we showed a decrease of about 6 percentage points in science, and our acceleration points were down about 5 points because we had a very small number of students that were enrolled in our acceleration courses. And of course, social studies, civics was not tested in 2017. Next slide, please. As indicated in our school improvement plan with respect to our 2018 proficiency goals, we want to look at a minimum of 4 percentage point increase for all students when there's less than 70% of them currently demonstrating proficiency. Now, of course, we want to exceed that 4%, but that's the minimum that we are striving for. Next slide. With respect to our 2018 projections with regard to social studies and science and acceleration, we want to see a minimum of 2 percentage points increase in our civics points, and in science, a minimum of 4 percentage points. That's just to obtain our overall points, but certainly we want to go much higher than that. And in terms of our acceleration, we want to increase from 45 to 55 points in that. And based on the numbers of students we have participating in our acceleration courses this year, I believe we will be able to meet and exceed that. Next slide, please.
Dr. Moore, before you get off these bars, where's the math accelerated? Is that just the accelerated, or where's the?
That's in the acceleration points.
Just the accelerated?
On a geometry. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so that when it's accelerated, you just mean math accelerated.
Exactly.
There's nothing in there but math.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now I get my minutes back, my time back, right?
All right, so before we leave that point, I just want to make sure we're clear. Acceleration includes things outside of math, although the great majority of the points in acceleration come from math. But the definition of acceleration is taking high school credit courses
Exactly.
with an EOC, which basically is a nice fancy way to say Algebra 1. Mm-hmm. But there's also a caveat for some industry certification in there. If we continued biology, that would also allow under acceleration. So
Yes.
although most people use acceleration as synonymous with math, there are other components to it. I just didn't want
And you know, we have the civics EOC that's included in that, and also our industry certification, which Ms. Sogi's going to talk about a little later. That is a lag set of scores that'll come in a little bit later. So we're excited about that. Our children are doing very well in that so far.
No, I was only saying it because the English scores were not as good as the math scores, so
Yes.
I was curious whether the math accelerated courses had that same sort of run rate.
It really just depends. I mean, you know, there I call it aberrations that take place sometimes during the year, but there is a difference in how students perform in math and reading. Math and reading are always a little bit different. And so,
Because the question comes in is math doing well because you're taking the kids aren't taking the accelerated courses they should be taking? That's why I was asking the question.
oh, I see. Okay. All right. Did we answer your question?
No, you did not.
Okay. So,
So
ask me.
is that the case?
to. So restate your question. I think I know what it is. But
The question is are we doing better in math than in English because we're have a bigger barrier to kids being able to take the accelerated math course?
I'm not so sure that it's such a large barrier. We really want to put kids in that class, in those classes that are going to be successful, and in doing so, it's the kids that are most likely to be successful. Now, in math, when you look at the FSA, you're going to see a slightly different set of scores for, like, say, 7th grade and 6th grade, because those kids have been pulled out of there and they're in that more accelerated math group. So you're going to see, yes, a skew in terms of the math scores or the percentage points in math.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next slide, please. So if you look, I'm sorry, back up. So in looking at where we were in 16-17 and where we want to go in 2017-18, you can see that we did fall 2 percentage points below the B this past year. But if we just meet our minimum, when we meet our minimum and exceed our minimum, we will meet and exceed the necessary percentage points for a B, which puts us about 4 percentage points below a grade A. So you know that we are in it to win it. So we believe that those percentage points are well within our grasp, and certainly that's what we're looking for. So based on this data, next slide please, here is our focus. We're looking at ELA and math lower quartile, learning gains in lower quartile, acceleration in algebra 1 and geometry, and overall school-wide progress and achievement, including social studies and those other areas of acceleration that we mentioned earlier. Next slide please. So to begin looking at what we are doing at McIntosh Middle School, we thought it very important that we create a culture for success, because we want to make sure that all of the strategies that we use would be embedded into our daily student progress and be easily monitored, and also any adjustments that we need to make, that we can do so with the least amount of disruption to instruction as well as student learning. Next slide. So here are the areas that we're looking at in terms of creating that successful culture. We started first with our master schedule, and I'm going to ask Ms. Panaghetti to share with you what we've done with that.
Good morning. As you can see on the 2 pages of the master schedule in your packet, we have a complex schedule. The creation of it was driven by our student data and their needs while meeting the district and state requirements. Our school is divided into 3 multi-grade houses. The Suncoast and STEM houses each have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team. The Hawk and Titanium house contains our multi-grade Hawk Academy for gifted and advanced students. It also contains our multi-grade transition team for students who need more educational, behavioral, and social support. Our master schedule is designed to allow grade level teams and departments to have common daily planning. Finally, although our master schedule this year is complex, it has enough flexibility to allow us to make proactive changes at any point in the year based on the needs of our current students.
And having said that, we developed, and you'll see all over the PowerPoint, themes this year. We have visuals all over the campus to remind us of our goals. We have T-shirts that we wear, all of the staff wears, and our students who made Renaissance wear every Friday, so we're all combined. As mentioned by Ms. Panaghetti, we have our transition team, which is very unique. We started that last year for 6th graders, but we increased it and expanded it this year to our 7th and 8th grade teams as well. Our students, which is really unique and wonderful for us this year, are in class by 9:25 a.m. every day in order to provide the maximum time for instruction and learning. School begins at 9:30, so there's that much time that they can get the news out of the way and get right into the business of teaching and learning. We've also added our PDAP team, which I'll let Ms. Sogi speak with you about.
Thank you. Good morning. So the PDAP team consists of the Professional Development Assistant Principal, the Master Scheduler, Progress Monitor, Reading Chairperson, right here, the English Language Arts Chairperson, the Professional Development Curriculum Leader, and the Career Team consisting of our Career Advisor and Guidance Counselor. Our goal is to improve student achievement through data tracking, professional development opportunities, as well as to focus on college and career technical training. In a bit, I'm going to speak with you more about the college and career part of our team.
We also have our MTSS team, which consists of our other assistant principal, our behavior specialist, our behavior technician, our guidance counselor, and our Esl Liaison. They focus on our school-wide support team and care. They track the trends in student behavior, as well as our our transition team. They look at attendance and also the academic performance of our students. Their goal is to proactively address students' needs and to ensure that academic progress and achievement are being met by our students. One of the things that we're very proud of this year is that we are really seeing a true sense of collective efficacy among our teachers as well as our students. This is evidenced by our instructional leadership team and our school-wide instructional leadership team. And our grade level team leaders, they meet 1 to 2 times a month to dissect and discuss data collectively. They develop strategies to support teachers and students. They model lessons for each other. They mentor the new teachers, and they really work to strengthen teacher and student relationships. We have what I call our A team that are working with us this year, which is our district program specialists who have been absolutely amazing. They work with individual teachers. They also work with within our PLCs as well as our teams to provide strategies and support for our teachers as well as our students. In addition, we have adult student volunteers as well as interns on our campus to support everything that we're doing to impact our student performance. Next slide, please. So embedded within that culture for success are our 5 strategies. Know thy impact, using data to inform instruction and monitor student progress, structured academic support services, systemic behavior support, and college and career readiness. Now, for the sake of time, we're not going to go through all of the pieces of those strategies because they are embedded in our culture for success, but we are going to highlight some of the ones we think are interesting and worth noting. So with that, we're going to move to the next slide and look at strategy 1, which is know thy impact. I'm going to ask Ms. Sogi to talk about our teacher learning walks as well as our professional development for our staff.
Okay, next slide, please. Over the next 2 slides, as well as a folded pamphlet that you should have behind me, you'll see that it's a pamphlet for our Focus Fridays. Our Focus Fridays at the beginning of the year started out every week. Over time, we've gone to every 2 or 3 weeks for our professional development sessions. They're focused on visible learning and high-impact strategies, as well as collective efficacy, and the IREADY needs analysis based on data that we're seeing. If you please go to slides 17 and 18, you'll see another example of our professional development experiences. That's been our learning walks. Small learning groups are scheduled based on a particular focus, such as technology, student engagement, or the gradual release model, and take a half day to observe, take notes, and reflect with colleagues about what they see or saw in the classroom. This is non-evaluative and provides teachers with a valuable learning experience with tools to bring back into their own classrooms. Dr. Moore?
Okay, I was just going to make sure he went to that next slide. If you'll look at slide 20, that's our success strategy number 2, using data to inform instruction and monitor student progress. And if you'll move to slide 22 and 22 first, I'm going to ask Ms. Sogi to talk about our ongoing progress monitoring of IREADY diagnostics and standards mastery, ongoing student data chats, and student self-progress monitoring using the IREADY portfolios. Next slide, please. Yeah, right there.
Thank you. So if you're looking at slides 22 and 23, so this year we've been very data-centered. Students use a portfolio to monitor their own progress on a weekly basis. As well, students and teachers have database chats based on their IREADY information that they're seeing, their scores. Teachers also use the IREADY toolbox to fill in learning gaps, and teachers use feedback to further instruction. School-wide and class-wide motivational initiatives are in place within the school to increase student excitement about their IREADY learning. Dr. Moore?
Success strategy 3, slide number 24. I want to highlight our TAG group. That's our Targeted Academic Growth Group. This is where we schedule daily and weekly meetings with students who are struggling, and these are students school-wide, to provide tutoring and additional support services for those students to ensure their success. We spoke a little bit about our transition team, which is very, very special and unique to us to provide support for those students that have exceptional needs as well as behavioral needs. They're divided into 2 teams. We have our students that have behavioral struggles and those that suffer from some extreme exceptionalities. Within each one of those classrooms, there's an instructional aid provided for those students to provide support to both the teachers and the students. We also have outside support that comes in to assist with our math support for acceleration, as well as for our advanced math students in 6th and 7th grades. we consistently, on a weekly basis, monitor our lower quartile data for our students. Next slide, please. Strategy 4 looks at our systemic behavior support system. We started working on this before we even began the school year. This summer, we began with home visits with our social worker and our behavior specialist, focusing on those students who were identified as having some key issues before they even began the school year, and those students who were enrolling in MCINTOSH for the first time. We also engage in restorative meetings both with teachers and students in order to prevent any issues that might continue to develop over the campus. We also engage that team in data collection to determine any trends that may be developing in terms of behavior, attendance, as well as grades. And finally, we have an awesome social skills set of classes that take place on a daily basis for those students that require additional support for social and emotional issues and other issues that they might be experiencing. I'm very, very excited to report that based on our referral data, when we look at last year, 2016-17, this time of the year, we are 69% lower in terms of referrals than we were last year at this time. So we know that this is an effective strategy. Next slide, please. And finally, our fifth strategy is looking at college and career readiness and career tech education, along with our new STRIDE program. I'm going to ask Ms. Sogi to begin by discussing college and career readiness and CTE.
Next slide, please. So on slide 27, you'll see examples of our college and career initiatives. Our College and Career Success Program is a daily encore class designed to provide students with options in learning for colleges and careers. We have a new college and career advisor. He chooses a weekly career to showcase on our morning news and a College of the Month choice to educate students on college options. As well, MMS provides many more CTE Encore choices, some leading to industry certification. Dr. Moore is now going to share with you our new and unique STRIDE program.
We are so excited about the STRIDE program, not only because it is a collaborative effort with Florida State University College of Medicine.
Long day.
But STRIDE stands for Science Students Together Reaching Instructional Diversity and Excellence. And as I mentioned, it's a collaboration with FSU College of Medicine, and it's designed to reach out to those students who would not normally consider a career in the field of medicine. So it looks at female students, ethnic students, and also those students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Students are committed to about 5 years. They start in 8th grade at MCINTOSH, and they continue on through grades 9 through 12 at Sarasota High School. And that's really exciting because it's a great collaborative effort between our school, our feeder school that we feed. It's wrought with speakers and mentors who are first and third year medical students who come in and work with our students. They have field trips and academic support for those students throughout all of their academic classes and the entire program throughout MCINTOSH, Sarasota High School, and also college. They help to prepare our students in terms of application process, study skills, and of course, they are highly favored if interested in attending FSU for undergrad and medical school. Just thought I'd mention that. And in closing, next slide, please. This is some of our kids in their summer mini camp with the STRIDE program, and it's so exciting to watch them. They have their stethoscopes, they have their scrubs, and of course they have their STRIDE shirts. So it's a very exciting thing to watch these kids. They really love it. As you can see, we are dedicated to reaching our strategic goals of positively impacting the progress and achievement of our students at MCINTOSH Middle School. We don't just talk the talk, we really are doing everything that we're telling you and some. We are truly in it to win it. Thank you so much. Questions?
Shirley?
I didn't see anything in here, and I apologize, I didn't look it up. How are you doing with English language learners?
Just kidding.
with our ELL students,
Yes.
they are incorporated in that data. In fact, interesting that you brought that up because just this weekend, you have to go kind of like a chunk at a time. So we were pulling their data just this past weekend and looking at how we can incorporate them into more specific strategies for them. We have an awesome Esl Liaison and person who works with them because we do see growth with that group, but they are intermixed in a lot of the different strategies that you already saw. We do have support in those classrooms with those students, with our instructional aides who work one-on-one, and also within the group in those students where they are housed together.
Yeah, I was concerned because when I was looking at the overall grades from 2016 to 2017, it seems like in a lot of the schools, and I don't know how your school fared, the English language learners dropped in their scores. And do you do anything with the parents of English language learners? I'm seeing nodding.
I'm so excited that you asked that question. We started this last year. We have a parent resource center that was specifically designed for our.
And just for the public, these questions were not planted.
Yeah.
They were not planted.
It's because we do so much, we couldn't put it all in here. But that's really exciting. We're working with UNITOS now. They come in and they provide not just services for our families in terms of housing, in terms of educational opportunities, job training, applications. We provide them with college information for their children, those that are not at MCINTOSH, but their entire families. We're so we look at the numbers that are coming, and it's increased so much from last year, and so they like what they're seeing, and they're enjoying coming and learning even more. So, and also providing the parents with resources in which they can improve their English language as well as their kids.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and also glad that you're working with organizations like UNITOS now, who can, be that bridge for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Eric.
I do want to say, since my table mate is in here, that Jane Goodwin would be very, very happy to hear about the social workers and behavioral specialists doing the home visits. I know that's something that's near and dear to her heart, and so just to channel my inner Jane, thank you for doing that. I'm sure that means a lot to her. My first question is there anything that is being done either policy-wise or at the landings outside the control of a principal? I know that you have autonomy when you get on the grounds, but is there anything outside of the grounds that you need from us, you need us to change? Is there some sort of obstacle that's getting in your way that you wish, I wish I didn't have to jump through this hoop. I could do so much better if I didn't have to do X. And what would X be? And it could be more than one thing.
Well, if you're asking me what we need, I have three things.
I know the first one's going to be money.
You're right.
I got that.
We need $10,000 for our IXL program. The IXL program helps to provide fluency in math and ELA. The students really, really, really like it because it shows them step by step, if they make a mistake in any area, how to fix that. It really, really helps them learn step by step how to gain mastery over a particular area. The SAC is giving us some of the money, but that's what we need in order to be able to get that. And I've worked out a deal where they'll throw in science and social studies if we were able to get that for 3 years. So we definitely need help with that. The second piece that we need that's outside of us is additional support for our special needs students. We're seeing a large influx of students that have very, very special and unique needs, anywhere from kids on the spectrum to kids that probably require some type of medication that they may not have or may not be a part of what their family's beliefs are. So we really need support on campuses, not just MCINTOSH, but I think all campuses, to really be able to positively impact those students as well as provide support to teachers, because some of the things that they're dealing with and seeing are really above what they're able to do as educators. And so having that support in there to provide strategic support on how to work with those students and ensure that they too are getting the best services where they are placed, we could use help there. And the last thing that we need is a van.
You've told me that.
I'm telling you again, we need a van. And here is why. And I have been talking with Assistant Superintendent Scott Limpy about this. Many of the students that we want to reach are students that can't stay after school or come early because they ride a bus. And if we had an ability to get them home, I know that we can do more to help those students gain mastery in both ELA and mathematics. And I think we could see even more kids in accelerated classes if they're able to get that additional support, because SMART is something you can learn. And if they have the opportunity to do that, I think that we'll see exactly what it is that we're trying to see with all these strategies.
So, Dr. Bowden, the head of the school district.
Yes.
So
we'll start with the easy one. Scott has made a commitment that there is money in the current allocated White Fleet budget, so he's in the process of procuring a van. So if he's not made that commitment to you, he has made that commitment to me. So I know that he is in process on the van request. The $10,000, I'm trying to make contacts with Laura, was included in the request. We had surveyed all of our C schools and those that were just over the bar to B, seeing what they needed in mid-year support. Was that included?
4,000, 6,000 is from her staff.
So it's 4,000 to us. Yep. Okay. And so we're working on that to hopefully be able to make that commitment next week or so. The ESE one is one that's not been documented to me. I know we provided a couple additional aids right before the start of the year to help you implement some interventions. What was that? 2 instructional aid positions we allocated?
3.
Yes, 3.
3.
The additional ones.
Yeah.
But I'll meet with you and figure out what we need to do there. But
I will.
2 out of 3 is not bad for a public meeting.
But it would be nice if the third one, if this landings could provide support for special needs.
Well,
and I have my last question. Yes, ma'am. I want you to feel like you're the principal, that you own MCINTOSH.
Thank you. I do want to say that our Pupil Support Services team has been tremendous in what they can do and what they're able to do with what I see that they have. When we have called them, especially this year, we have a new behavior specialist, a new Esl Liaison, in addition to 2 new assistant principals. So our whole team there is pretty new. But when we have called on them, they have come in groups to provide that support for our team. So I want that on the record that they have been there. I just think that there's so many of us and so many needs that they have to, kind of get where they can get when they can get there. But they have been very, very supportive of us and our needs.
So my next, hopefully it'll be, I'll put 2 together instead of making it my last, is I didn't see anything in here that seemed like aha. So my question is, why didn't we do these things before? Why are you just doing them now? And why did we go down in scores?
What we have been doing them before. I think one of the things that, and the why, I might as well ask, why did Florida Gators lose to Florida State? I mean,
3.
Every game is a different game. We are in our transition period at McINTOSH Middle School. We are going through our second kind of wave of staff change for different reasons. There are many people who thought they wanted to do middle school but found out they liked high school or elementary better. So they want to do that, and that's great because we send people out with some great skills. There are people who wanted to live closer to where they live, and so they moved when opportunities came. And then we had some retirement, so we've had some changes in terms of our staffing. And when you do that, you've got to retrain and reteach and so on and so forth. We also had some significant changes at a very critical time, as you know, last year that impacted our ELA scores. And so I can say there are many factors that impacted our scores last year, but I can't pinpoint any one thing. And if you ask me why we're just doing this, we haven't just started this. We've been building these programs and strategies over time. When the need shows up, we certainly address them as they come about. The master schedule, we've been working on that. We've had a unique master schedule now for 6 years, and we just continue to tweak it in terms of the needs of our students. The way that we have that now, all of our teachers have the opportunity to meet collaboratively, whether they're in their PLCs or the content area teams meet. So there are some unique things that we put in place, but time allows that to happen. And having the addition of another assistant principal also gives us more ability to impact more areas of the school and to really focus on different areas strategically rather than just having two people in admin, because we have to be out in the classrooms, we have to provide that professional development, we have to deal with parents, we have to answer questions, and then the day-to-day things that come up. So I think that we have been doing those things. I just think that it was just one of those years. I promise you that you'll see some improvement this year. And what was your other question?
Yeah, moving to Shirley.
Okay.
Shirley.
Gosh, it's been so long. No reference to you, Eric. Why are you wearing a Florida State tie?
Oh, God.
Was that explained earlier?
Why are you wearing a Florida State tie?
Let's be
By the way-
cautious of time so we don't go off
University
schedule.
is-
'Cause I was stupid enough to make a bet with Dr. Bowden of the game.
Oh,
But that bet did not include a haircut, which I thought was a nice ad.
Yes,
There you
I'm going hardcore with this.
As much as Christian would love that. Moving on to
there was there was talk about the social the behavior specialists and the now I have forgotten, and the social workers. I knew it was social something. And I shared with the board members an article that was in one of those things that we get. Well, we get the little blurbs, and there was an article from one of them that I shared where, there are some counties or districts in this state that partner with the health department and have on-site health nurses at all of the schools. Wouldn't that be nice? And they're using other avenues to get social workers on. And, I would like us to perhaps, maybe when you're meeting with superintendents and whatnot, we can talk to some of those and find out ways that we can enhance the presence of nurses and social workers on site, because I think it's something that we need.
Absolutely.
Even healthcare, especially now with so much of the issues with the opioids, and because if that affects the family, it could affect some of these students. But even if it affects the parents, we've got students that are impacted by this, and I'd really like to be able to provide all those services. There are some people who think we should provide everything that the students need from the time they step on until they step off. And then I know there are others who think that, no, we're only supposed to teach, because I think back when we had full service school over at Emma Booker. But I think we see a need for some of these things, and I'd like to maybe look into that to get back to doing those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Two things that Eric had mentioned that I had down in my notes, and I know that when we've met before, behavioral issues were something that you were really focused on, because it's a distraction to the learning environment. So having those supports, so it's good to see that there are, I know that's been on your radar, so it was nothing new, if we look in the historical nature, but it's good to see that it's moving forward. But I think to reiterate what was just said here is what you need from a supportive standpoint to see that happens. Please let us know, and I love your frankness to the question. And then also another thing that Shirley brought up, but I think maybe better from a time standpoint to discuss in the learning gaps component, is breaking out the ELL and seeing how we can address those subgroups better, because that may have a tremendous impact, obviously, on the students and their families, but also on your scores and stuff. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Dr. Moore, I would be remiss if during the changeover I didn't compliment you. My daughter is now a freshman at Sarasota High School and having a wonderful experience. She's doing outstanding there, and that's that foundation that you provided at MCINTOSH, and I want to thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
One down, one to go, though.
We are committed to excellence.
All right.
And destined for greatness.
Thank you for what you're doing for my kids.
And next we have Wilkinson's principal, Susan Nations, who is probably the most renowned reading specialist in our district, who we were able to get from Southside as an AP to Wilkinson last year. So thank you, Susan. And Chris?
See everybody.
Good morning. I am really happy to be sharing Wilkinson this morning with you. And because I'm still relatively new there, just starting in June 2016, I know that I want to look a little bit at the past, a little glimpse of the past, the current reality, the present, and then also the future. So as we considered improvement strategies to affect student performance at Wilkinson, we knew that it was time to look into the past, and we reestablished the school's mission, which you can see there on your cover sheet, working together, building children's futures. And this is something that is from the past that we're bringing back because we believe that it really does need to permeate everything we do, and it's very succinct, telling us exactly what our purpose is at Wilkinson. As the new principal in 2016, as I said, I knew that I needed to be aware of the history of the school, and when you looked at the test scores, not just FSA scores, but FCAT scores as well prior to that, there was a steady decrease, declining across ELA, math, and science for several years. Also, another statistic that was very alarming to me was the turnover in staff. In the summer, the average number of staff leaving the school was 8 to 10 teachers per summer, with a high of 16 in one of the previous 5 years. So, as the new principal, I set out to build a 100-day entry plan, and that encompassed the 3 goals that you see on that next slide. First and foremost was to build culture with staff and with families so that they would want to stay and come to Wilkinson. Deepening the understanding and narrowing the focus of our instruction, and then building business and community partnerships. Our current reality, when you look at the 3 years of FSA data, you can see that we have shown a slight increase in a slight positive trend in reading and math, that we're hoping that trajectory is on its way up, and we believe that it is. And you see that science is still a concern for us. When you look at the lowest 25%, the students that are in that lowest quartile, you can see that we really had something to celebrate last year, as our students went from 38% proficient, 38% of our students making a learning gain in that lowest quartile in 2016 to 50%. My father-in-law, some of you know, is a former director of research here in Sarasota County, and he said that's statistically impossible. I said, no, it's possible. We did it. And then when you look at the percent of students overall making learning gains, you can see slight increases there as well across math and reading. When you look at the demographics, you can see that our minority rate has increased slightly over the last 3 years, and our free and reduced lunch rate has increased significantly. So again, those are just our realities. When we look at the grade, the points earned, you can see that we did show an increase from 2016 to 2017 of 6 points, and we know as a staff, when we look at our goals, that we need to gain 66 points across the graded cells. So going back to those 3 goals that I entered with, the first one, as I said, was to build culture with staff and families. We started with that, and I started with it because I believe with my whole heart that until we have collective efficacy completely on that campus, it's not going to make the difference that we need to make. And so that collective efficacy, we're really throwing that word around right now in education, but it really is that deep belief from every staff member that we are the people that make the difference. It's not the zip code, it's not the community that our students are coming from, but the teacher in the classroom makes the difference. So we're really on our way to building that in our school. And with that impact of a 1.57 in the research, that's a goal worth pursuing, in my opinion. So starting last year, we established this the full STEAM ahead theme. We really wanted to dig into the STEAM concepts of science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. We've all heard that saying, everything I needed to know I learned in kindergarten. I believe everything we needed to know we learned from a picture book. So we literally gave every staff member that very old and familiar picture book of the little engine that could, because it was our goal to make sure that everybody was saying, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. So as we started with the staff relationship, basically we started with this very simple thing. We're going to work hard, but we're also going to play hard. And we did both. And we were very fortunate that as a staff, we worked with the Education Foundation. We had a very generous donor who funded the culture building strategy at the school. And so we were able to take our staff on the mystery dinner train and do some very fun things, which you can see reflected there, but you can also see the important part of learning together as well. Going to that second goal, deepening the instructional focus and narrowing the focus. So one of the pieces that I have had the privilege of building and using in my prior schools was this Planning for Instruction guide, which I brought to Wilkinson. And this outlines for teachers what it is, what do we need to be doing in ELA, math, and science. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. What are the resources that we have on this campus to do it? How does it align with district focus, and how does it align with our PRIDE rubric for teachers? And so we give that out to teachers as a guide, and then we use it in our conversations throughout the year as we work with teachers, coaching and modeling.
Can I just interject? I just want to give credit to Susan. This is a document that she worked on for years, cultivating while at GoShow. And I just have to tell you, it is used by a number of principals, including myself, having been at Ashton, because it really does help the staff see what the importance is when it comes to focusing on instruction.
So that guide continues to be updated annually. As we looked at Ms. Kisner and I, the assistant principal, and myself, we started walking through the school, doing our observations. One of the things that we really noticed was in our walkthroughs, when you break the data down, about 3 out of 5 walkthroughs were, we saw students working on phonics and word-related tasks, which we know is important, but we weren't seeing enough of that deeper learning, the deeper comprehension. And if we want students to be successful on those FSA tests, we know that they have to be able to read, understand, and share what they're reading. So with that in mind, we established this year's goal, which is Get in Gear. And we told our teachers that we were going to do it in 3 ways. We were going to do it through teacher collaboration, because we are stronger together, knowing our content deeply, which, as I said, we started last year and we've continued into this year, and then that deep belief that every student can learn on the campus. So we were, again, very fortunate to reach back out to our anonymous donor through the Education Foundation, and together with our admin team, we developed 4C Camp. And you can see there that 4C Camp happened 2 days prior to school starting. We had 47 out of 59 staff members commit to coming for that 2 days prior to school, which I think is incredible. And the 4C Camp, it was overnight. We took them up to Ellington and spent the night and had a great time. We worked hard and we played hard. And we built 4C Camp around 4 C's, literally: comprehension, because that went back to our data, collegiality, continuing that culture building, creativity, which we know is the thing that's one of the underlying things that helps kids be able to think outside the box, and then content, really understanding content deeply. When you look at our 4C Camp, how it was structured, and if you can switch to the next slide, that'd be great. We hired an outside consultant to come in and work with our staff, Tanny McGregor, who's a national author and presenter in the area specifically of comprehension instruction. We also used our reading recovery teachers, who were so deeply trained last year, and they were able to work with every grade level, K through 5, teaching those deep reading strategies and helping them think about how can I implement those for my students to make a difference this year, and then using our other experts on the campus to weave in the other 4 C's.
Can I ask how much that that cost, that camp, that 2-day camp?
How much did it cost? I want to say the cost in overall, I think our ballpark was a $14,000 request. We did leverage that with both, like I said, the donor through the Ed Foundation and the Title I professional development funds. And when we did that, that includes 2 half-days of planning this school year. So they'll dip back into the 4 Cs in 2 half-days. So that $14,000 includes 2 more learning opportunities.
And teachers were on their their preparation time.
It was before prep time. It was 2 days prior to staff returning to school, and we compensated them for 1 day, and then we bought back 1 day.
Thank you.
Okay, so then as we know, we want 4C to last. We want that culture to last, but we know that if we're really going to change our trajectory, we have to dig into each student and really know what the numbers mean. And so last year we started not quarterly data chats. We did 3 data chats last year. And in those data chats, the teacher brought to us 3 to 4 students that they selected to say, these are the 3 to 4 that I'm concerned about. And when I say us, I'm talking about a support team, the Esl Liaison, the Esl Liaison, the whole support team, so that we could have conversations and say, what are we going to do to support this student? And those were very powerful. But this year we've tweaked those a little bit, and we just finished round 1. I think it's going to be a success point this year. We've tweaked them to be quarterly. And when the teachers come, rather than coming alone, they're now coming as a team. And we're talking about every child at the grade level. So what are we doing for every single child, and what does the data show us if I'm a 2nd grade teacher, and what does the data show us if I'm a 3rd grade teacher? So we believe that the quarterly data chats are going to help us make a difference. When we look at the content areas that 4C Camp focused on, changing that ELA performance at Wilkinson, we had, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of these, 45 teachers that joined the Reading Council last year and attended the trainings that they provided. We provided guided reading book study last year, again, to kind of dip into that comprehension piece, which we had 23 people participate in. We have an after-school Wildcat Academy for our lowest 25%, our lowest quartile students. 80 students participated in that from grades 2 through 5. That was funded through Title I funds.
80 out of how many?
80 out, well, across 2 through 5 is roughly 80 at a grade level. So 80 across, 80 out of the lowest quartile is probably about maybe 150, 200 students. Yeah. Another piece that we've added this year, our reading recovery teachers have now started mentoring and coaching, actually going into classrooms to model and to do coaching and modeling for teachers to share, again, those deep reading strategies that they've learned through their program. And we have our Esl Liaison working with our ELL students and their parents. We've had a great success rate bringing in parents during the day, monthly, to look at their IREADY scores, set goals for their child, and then prepare ways that they can help them at home to improve. In math, we continue to work at the district initiative, the Maximizing Math Mentality. We have included daily math journals for grades K through 5, half-day planning sessions for teams to dig deeper into their data, and this year we've departmentalized at 5th grade to really maximize those people that are stronger in math instruction. And the after-school program this year, the Wildcat Academy, last year only focused on ELA. This year it will also include mathematics. One piece of data that we received recently that we're excited about, we're hoping that it's an indicator that our trajectory is changing in science. If you look at last year's district benchmark data in AP1, 43% of we had a 43% average of that district 1 benchmark. This year, AP1, 55% average. So that's a 12-point increase, which is significant. But as I said, science remains part of our focus, our deep focus. And so we knew that this was a content area that we really did need to make a change in. In 2016, we changed the master schedule so that every teacher K through 5 has a block on their schedule to teach science. And that was new for the staff at Wilkinson. We also included our STEAM family nights, which I'm going to share in just a moment with you. And we also realigned that special schedule. So rather than a student going to art one day, music the next day, PE the next, and science, and then starting the rotation all over again, now our students go for a week to that special. So if I go on Monday and I can build that concept over a week, I'm going to get deeper learning. So we're really seeing some success with that. And finally, we added the Makerspace, which again, I'll show you in just a moment, but the Makerspace is a second dip into science on the specials wheel. So our kids are getting two different science-focused specials over that rotation for grades 2 through 5. And then also one other thing that we've done is we started after-school clubs this year. We have 40 students participating in after-school clubs that are all science and STEAM focused. That third goal, as I said, was to build business and community partnerships. When I got to Wilkinson, there were 3 business partners. Last year, we raised that to 28. This year, we're at 36. That is something that is making a huge, huge difference on our campus. And one of the places that our business partners and community partners are really impacting is our STEAM family nights. And this is just a little glimpse into that. Our community partners come over the night. This included community partners like even Brookside's Robotics Club participated, Fallhaber, Fab Lab, the Florida House, and all kinds of different community partners that are STEAM focused. These nights were created and facilitated by 39 of our staff members. We had an average attendance of 175 over each night for the 5 nights, with a peak of 240. We believe that one of the success pieces was that our community partner, Uncommon Kids, fed every family free at every one of these events. And then that whole night is built around students and families investigating STEAM concepts deeply and connecting to the real world and the careers that are in our community. The 2018 dates are right there on your PowerPoint slide, so I hope you'll add them to your calendar because I'd love to see you there, because the learning and the family interaction is really exciting. As I said, we added the Makerspace this year. This was another piece that our community partners literally helped us tear down this room and rebuild it into this Makerspace this year for specials for grades 2 through 5. We used our Title I dollars to create a STEAM coach position, and our STEAM coach is helping to implement this Makerspace on the wheel. This is a program that is designed to allow students to experiment, build, and invent as they engage in standards-based science, engineering, and inquiry. There are some other things that are really working at Wilkinson, of which I'm very proud. As I said earlier, the retention of staff is a piece that was a concern for me, because I know that if you're going to build long-term impact, you have to keep your staff. And this year we only lost 3 teachers, and those were due to moves across the district. So it wasn't, they left because they moved physically from the area. 4th grade math and reading proficiency is incredible, the growth in that grade level, so we're very happy about that. We've received several teacher grants, both last year and this year, 13 last year, 17 this year. And then probably the statistic on that page that I'm most excited about is that our projection when I entered Wilkinson was 474. We actually hit 498 last year. We are going to have a 500 party. I'm not sure what that looks like yet, but we're going to figure it out. And today we're at 493, so I got to figure it out hopefully pretty fast. Also, when we look at the data, other data pieces, we had 3 Trailblazer grants received this year. We had classroom sponsorships. So part of our business and community partners sponsor every teacher last year for $100 a class, because we know teachers spend their hard-earned money on their own. So last year we were able to give every teacher an additional $100. This year we've raised that and have given them all $150 through those business and community partners. We have 4 teachers participating in the Leadership Academy, and we had Temple Emmanuel step in this year and create an amazing opportunity for our kindergartners. They have provided a reading mentor for every one of our kindergarten students. 80 students have a mentor that comes once a week and reads aloud to them, which is just, again, a beautiful thing to see. And then
That's great, because when I saw 80K, I thought it was 80,000 students. I was like, wow, that's a big school.
From your mouth to God's ear, I hope. Okay. So then as we think about, that's our present, and now we want to talk about the future a little bit. So one of the pieces that we're adding this year is a STEAM courtyard. If you've never been on our campus, we have a beautiful courtyard in the center of it that has sat dormant for many, many years. And we're building this courtyard, which is not too different from when you go to the park and you see the sit-up station, the push-up station, and the pull-up station, but instead we're going to have the STEAM stations out there. So outdoor learning. So imagine students going out there and being able to look through a daytime telescope, or go out there and look at the weather station and really have hands-on learning in the courtyard. And it's our goal to build that into an exploration for not just our students, but other Sarasota County students, with our students acting as docents for students to come participate in the STEAM courtyard. We were extremely blessed this year to have Lowe's. We received a grant from Lowe's, and they built us an amazing butterfly garden, which you see in that photo as well, which is an extension of that STEAM courtyard. Also, when we look into the future, we want to unleash the power of the corner. So when I applied to Wilkinson, I was very excited to hear that there's a vision for, if you think about the block of Wilkinson, we sit and are neighbors with Fallhaber, Fab Lab, Florida House, STC, and Polytech. And so we want to be able to leverage our partnerships, and we're already doing some of that. We have Polytech students that come over and tutor our students. As I said, we have Fallhaber and Florida House partnering with us at our STEAM nights and through other opportunities during the school year. And then what we want to do is build STEAM Street at Wilkinson. So the vision for STEAM Street is to be totally interactive. It would be a little like going to BizTown, if you know that program, or Enterprise Village. But it would include our neighbors on that corner, helping to give the experience and the interaction and the exploration for students right there on the campus. I believe that the implementation of STEAM Street will close the achievement gap, and I also believe that it's going to attract students to Wilkinson that's going to facilitate some socioeconomic integration, which I think could be very powerful for our students and our families. When we look at the concept, we envision it being a real-world learning experience where kids are digging deeply into practical, hands-on activities that are STEAM-focused, and that they're getting to interact with our community partners, our business partners, the corner, and really understanding how STEAM works in our world and how it could work in their eventual career. And then we want to be able to, again, use our students as docents to hopefully bring other students from other district schools to experience STEAM Street. So going back to those 3 goals, I said they were my first 100-day goals, and it didn't take me long to realize that they needed to drive into this year and next year and the future. And so when I think about what we're doing at Wilkinson, we're going to continue to build the culture with staff and families. We're going to continue to deepen our understanding of instruction using the strategies that I've shared today, and then deepening the business and community partnerships. I believe that when we're focused and intentional, that we will yield success.
It's a great presentation. Do you have any questions?
I had my finger up
she's going to go first. I apologize.
I'm really glad to hear the things that you were focusing on, although I'm not surprised from what I've heard about you. So that's great. You're going to be celebrating 50 years soon?
We are, December 15th.
Yeah.
So we hope you'll put that on your calendar, too.
Yeah, I tried. There wasn't. That was a busy, busy day. And I'm really bummed I'm going to miss that. But I think it's a great thing. I'm wondering, I know there's a lot of people, not a lot of students in the area that have chosen to go to different schools for one reason or another. Is there any plans to do like a marketing piece for your school to the neighborhood?
Yes, that's something that we are discussing as a district leadership team, along with not only Miss Nations, but a couple of other prospective principals as well.
I mean, that would be a good thing for a lot of us if that you did that. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And I know that there's also partners. The Church of the Palms, I know, does after-school tutoring, and a lot of the students come from Wilkinson. And I see you're going to be doing after-school tutoring right on your campus. But I know that the woman, I think it's Linda Evans, who's running that program, would welcome any interaction with your school whatsoever. And I know that some of the teachers will put a note in to the tutor over at the school, at the church, what the lesson is. And that's very, very helpful, because I know I tutor there and my husband does too. And then if we see that this is what the teacher wants, then it's much better for us to do what the teachers want and help. And I know that there'll be anything that you can do to help those kids after school. If you get a partnership going there, it would be wonderful.
We have definitely, that's a partnership as well. When we think about those 38 partners, you don't see them all on that page, but Church of the Palms has been very integral in our program. They've provided the Day of Hope experience for our students, and then they also do they're actually giving funding, or they just gave us, I think, 16 turkey dinners for families for the holidays, and then they're also funding holiday gifts as well. So and then I have worked with Linda as well to talk about the after-school tutoring program.
Yeah, because there's some of the tutors don't exactly understand what needs to be done with math these days.
Eric?
In light of the fact that SRA played a role in making Emily Booker from a D to a B, I'm just curious why you decided to pass over SRA.
So when I look at SRA, again, for me, I think that SRA can be very beneficial for students who need that phonics and word work component. And I believe because our students were so strong in phonics and word work, remember that is the piece that I do think is very strong there. When I was doing walkthroughs, I was seeing a lot of instruction, deep instruction in those areas. And as a former reading specialist, then I felt like the piece that we really needed to focus on was that comprehension piece.
And the students that don't go to Wilkinson or in the area, do you have any idea where they do go? Do they school choice to another public school? Do they go to a charter school? Do they go to a private school? I mean, just...
There's a mix. There's, I think when we looked at the data, it's about 219 students, and they're spread out at several of our public schools, and then a handful of charter schools as well. And, you know, some of it's a little mix, and some of them are larger numbers.
But a super duper majority go stay within the district managed schools?
Between the charter schools and the public schools, yes.
No, I mean, do a majority of them go to district managed schools? Do more than 15% of them, how about this? Do more than 15% of them go to charter schools? Because that's our district average.
No, without that data in front of me, but I do know the large majority go to other public schools here in Sarasota County.
District managed.
District managed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Do you have any other? Well, one question hinging off that was, I know you'd said 500 was really where you wanted to see yourself go. What is our current capacity at Wilkinson? Because I know this has been an ongoing discussion about moving it up, but what's the max capacity?
So Wilkinson was at 900 at one time. Okay. So when I say 500, that's only a little.
No, I'm very aware. Yeah, I understand that. The reason is that this conversation about elementary schools in general has gone. Obviously, that's a broader picture. I just wanted to, since we're on the topic of capacity, because I think you're doing a tremendous job. I think focusing on culture is everything, because then it transfers over to the environment, to the students, and I firmly believe that it is very refreshing to hear you say that, because if you want your staff to show up and love where they're working, and that changes everything. And really, I'm really excited about what you've done. I think that you have incredible leadership skills to be able to pull in a lot of the community leaders that you've worked with in the past. I mean, you've very much thought out of the box. And I think when we talk about capacities, and this is year 2, really, right? So I think it could be a tremendous game changer for Wilkinson, and it's important to be aware of that. But and kind of hinging off what Eric had said is, what have we analyzed? Where are they going? Why are they going? And there could be a myriad of reasons to that. But knowing what that deviation is, what we're trying to cap out at, so we don't know what the max capacity is for Wilkinson?
Oh, yes, we can give you an exact number. I thought it was in the 800s, so I think when you were at 900, you were over capacity. But we have a mobility report. We can tell you the exact number of students who are at Wilkinson that are districted to be elsewhere, and we can tell you the number of students by school that are within Wilkinson's district that are attending other schools, both district managed and charter schools. Just to expand on your point, our conversation about Ashton and the overcrowding that's taking place at Ashton, a future build in Palmer Ranch, will also have to include Wilkinson and Brentwood, because when the state looks at elementary capacity, they see that we have capacity, but that capacity is north of Ashton, and we're seeing growth south of Ashton. But until we can answer the utilization of Wilkinson and the utilization of Brentwood, we wouldn't get authorization from the state now, even if we had property and money in the bank to build in Palmer Ranch, because they would say you have elementary capacity in the area, although it's not in the right place. And so there are a number of options available to us. One is redistricting. It's not an option that I favor. The other is magnet programs, is how do you draw students into those schools? And so when she talks about Steam Street and those types of things, what would make someone want to voluntarily go, which is certainly better than moving a line on a paper and somehow forcing them to go. And so those are conversations that we are very interested in, not just at Wilkinson, but also at Brentwood.
No, I agree. And I think that's where some of the marketing component, doing what you're doing and making sure people are aware of it is key. But great job, Shirley.
Well, I think when you're doing that marketing and when you look at it, a lot of people say they want to go to a charter school because they like that smaller environment. I mean, I would think the smaller environment that we have at Wilkinson should be a big selling point. Do you want to go to Wilkinson that has 500 students, or do you want to go to Ashton has between 1,000 and 1,200?
Yes.
But you have to also understand, in a marketing campaign, you have to have something to sell. And so she is turning the corner at Wilkinson. But when you have an honest conversation, it's got to be something people want to be a part of. And so they are headed in the right direction. I think we have created elements that would create that draw. But people are very in tuned. And so when they talk about a C school, people don't voluntarily choose C schools. And so her move to a B, her move to increase STEAM, those will be attractors. And so you can hire the best marketing firm in the country, but the first thing they're going to come in and say, what is it that I have to sell? And so she's laying the foundation now for future marketing campaigns. But I don't think today we're ready for that, but we're getting close. We're getting real close.
Well, I really appreciate how we're looking. This is a way to even out our enrollment rather than going and drawing those lines. If we can have the voluntary realignment of the students, I think that's so much better, and you're doing a great job on that. Thank you.
I agree. And I think it goes back to the culture. I think when you walk on the campus and if families see that, I know as a parent, that is a huge driver for me. So my hat's off to you. Great work. I know it's been a valiant effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's an event in February over in Daytona called the Daytona 500. So if you're looking for a 500 celebration, and I happen to know that over at the Technical College, there's several instructors who are part of the racing community, and they could fill your parking lot with race cars. So if you're looking for a 500 celebration, which I thought you did, just wanted to throw that idea out there to you.
We're in. Thank you.
Thank you. So you didn't ask the question, Mr. Robinson, what does she need? And I will tell you that Steam Street project is about $3.5 million when it's all told. So I hope you'll consider that in your, yes.
I didn't ask a question because I was afraid of the answer, so.
But I think it will be worth it. Okay, the next three things, we're going to try to make up time. These are district staff that are going to be presenting. I know you care most about what's happening in our schools, but these folks are supporting our schools. So I'm just going to introduce who's coming up. Go ahead. And then they can come right up one after the other. And so first, we wanted to make sure you understood the MTSS process. They have a long PowerPoint, and I asked them, since you've read it ahead, to go through as quickly as possible. After that, Ron's going to give you a little bit of information about CTE and dual enrollment, and then Karen and Sue are going to talk about the career advisors.
Come on, Chrissy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Speed testing commercials that used to be, I think it was FedEx or something.
We can catch up, I believe.
Yes, good morning. And we are excited to just share with you some of the things that Pupil Support Services. As you know, our division is a large division, but we focus mostly with at-risk students. And really, our goal has been changing the mindset of district staff to bring the support to the schools, because we're dealing with the most intense students, regardless of their location in the schools and regardless of outside factors that might impact, because we got to support our teachers and the staff in those schools. So with me this morning,
I'm Tracy Cardenas. I'm the Florida Diagnostic and Learning Resource System Program Manager. It's nice to be here.
Hi, good morning. Debbie Jackalone. I'm the Supervisor for Student Services.
And we all together work as a team. Whatever a principal needs, a school needs, we're going to bring it together. So in 2004, just very briefly, IDA, individual grant for the state and federal that supports students with disability, did a revision. And we moved from the conversations of RTI, response to intervention, to multi-tier systems of support. So the presentation today is briefly what your schools are doing in terms of providing supports for our students in the whole picture of what does that student need and how can we support those teachers to make it happen, the learning and the engagement. And RTI is really has shifted. You're not going to see vocabulary referred to RTI no longer, because it has transferred to the vocabulary of multi-tier systems of support. And that is how we're guiding our staff. We're training teachers and support staff to use the same language so people and parents can understand what we're doing for students at all different levels. We included some of the levels you always see when they refer to a triangle in terms of different types of interventions, and we start at the bottom for all general students education, and based on those students' supports, we go into small group. And if a student is intensive of needs of intervention and they're sitting in a gen ed classroom, they might get that individual support you mentioned before about those impact that interfere instruction or shuts down instruction in school. Behavior is one of those impacted factors that we deal on a day-to-day basis. This is fluid. Many times when our principals call, they need support, the teachers need support, so we go with experts in that area, and we together as collective team bring them together to really find out and figure out what does the student need and how we can provide those supports so the student can access the learning and the teacher can teach in a classroom.
Multi-tiered system of supports is really an umbrella term that encompasses all learners. Multi-tiered system of support supports learners, particularly who are struggling to advance. And that process really encompasses a lot of data analysis and problem solving on the behalf of students. And we've included all of that data there for you on that slide for review. Why multi-tiered system of supports? Because it's an insurance that every student is successful in their academic program. How? Through evidence-based interventions, high-quality evidence-based instruction, ongoing progress monitoring, analysis, and assessment. And that's why we use multi-tiered system of supports. Finally, for the next piece is that this process involves really a mindset shift. We're moving away from labeling students, really about what does the student need to be successful? What are the supports and systems that are in place for that student through careful data analysis and problem solving?
one of the things that we're really proud of in Sarasota is every school has a robust team of experts that are committed to looking at the needs of the child. So those teams include school psychologists, building administrators, teachers, behavior specialists, speech and language pathologists, school nurses. Whatever that child needs, the experts are there at every school to really focus on that child. We've really started looking at the child as a whole. We're not looking at the child in isolation. So we're looking at the impact of the student's attendance, the student's behavior, and the student's academics on the overall student achievement levels. We have a very robust implementation practices that we implement within our schools. We've listed a lot of them for you on that page. I don't need to read each one of them, but we're really proud of the good things that are happening in our district for students who are in need. Mrs. Nations talked a little bit about collective efficacy, and our team really tries our best to connect resources between the schools, the families, and the community, because we know collectively is where we get the greatest impact on achievement for our students.
What is the impact in Sarasota? The feds require us to track how many students are on intervention every year. So, and that is through the IDEA grant, again, Individuals with Disability Act. So in Sarasota, in 2015-16 to 2016-17, we listed some of the numbers that we collected through our SIS system. Again, these numbers, you might have seen a slight increase at the elementary level, because since 15-16 was the first year that we were able to even further diagnose students with need of reading, and that's the first year that elementary levels did receive reading recovery. And this 16-17, all schools have reading recovery, as why those numbers have increased. However, at the end of the school year, when students have met those benchmarks or standards, they are removed from being tracked, but the system does allow us to really keep that information as a resource for the teachers, so they know where the students were and they were at to move and continue instruction. Middle school and high school has some numbers, but one of the big things here is that we have a lot of supports. When I'm saying in terms of collectively working together to focus, what does a teacher know? When a principal calls us, one of those areas that really shuts a school down and is the area of behavior. So it's not about hiring someone just to have an adult there. It's about providing expertise support so we can figure out what's going on, include the family. You spoke about our social workers, the mindset shift in terms of helping us go out to the home, find out, dig more in terms of how can I help you as a family, bring some stability in terms of the school environment so we can teach. So our focus has been really bringing expertise together. This past year, we were unable to get a lot of support from a discretionary project. You have heard the word SEDNet. In our district, SEDNet, I have used them as a liaison to have community partners into our schools to provide that additional mental health support. So we are doing that on our own, because we include all agencies that are willing and able to send therapists into the schools to provide that additional support, since we have to deal with the educational part of it, but there are some students that do need that continuous mental health therapy that a mental health provider can do that.
I want to stop you really quickly on the interventions and the numbers. If you just by grade, I'm using 6 for elementary, and I know K doesn't necessarily have as much enrollment. Why is there such a dramatic downgrade from, for example, on average it's 384 interventions per grade in elementary, 181 in the 99? That's my math, just dividing on elementary to how many grades are offered within those. But why is there such a large drop when you move up in grade too?
Because if you look at the level of early intervention is the key to success. So the younger we can capture those children needing intervention, the larger numbers are going to be. If students meet those interventions and no longer require continuous support in that area, they're going to be meeting those standards, so you no longer need that support.
Okay, good. So it is trending that way. That we are, okay.
Yes.
That's the point I wanted to make.
At high school, you see we provide a lot of intervention, and Tracy and Debbie can mention what we're doing in terms of some pilot supports at high school level, but it's a totally different level of the type of intervention they require. Debbie, you want to?
The next slide talks about the prescriptive assessments, and that is something that our school psychologists, our behavior specialists, our social workers can do when we're trying to identify what types of interventions those students need. It's a way to dig a little bit deeper if the team has really used their problem-solving skills and they haven't been able to identify specifically why that student is struggling. We utilize the prescriptive assessments. You see that we had a decrease in the number of prescriptive assessments, and I think that's a great testimony of the use of some of the data sources that are already in place in our district, like IREADY. That's already given us a lot of data about what the student can and can't do. And then the very end talks about comprehensive evaluations. And those evaluations are conducted these are initial evaluations for students who have been through the entire multi-tiered system of supports, and they need that level of intervention to continue on with their progress. So we would do a comprehensive evaluation looking at the whole child and the child's needs. And that is, we increased our comprehensive evaluations from 897 to 934 over the past year.
Yes.
What about when a student needs interventions that is beyond what we can give? It's the family that needs the intervention. Like I say, husband was tutoring a child that kept falling asleep, and it turned out that kid had been homeless, or they'd been sleeping on couches and or in a hotel room with 6 kids. Is there something that a teacher can do to refer that family to someone that they can then get, or through you, help them with housing?
Oh, absolutely. Multi-tier system of support has places, like Debbie had mentioned. In every single school, we have a school-wide support team. So when teachers are aware of something or not, they bring it to school-wide support team, or they address it through their support staff in the school, the counselor or the social worker assigned, and we further investigate. At the end of the day, it's about what does that child needs in terms of support systems in the home, and we are using our social workers or homeschool liaisons to support that comprehensive further investigating of what are the needs and how we can connect those needs. Now, you need to understand, we many times as a team make referrals, connect them, take the family to those agencies that can provide that support or bring them to the table, and parents have to accept the support. And then you're dealing also with rules and regulations and laws, because many times we make very thorough recommendations, very specific recommendations. Again, parents need to allow us to be able to follow through those implementation or recommendation. When we talked, a lot of us are dealing with mental health or lack of mental health support to the schools. The Senate Bill 1108, when it was intended to allow private therapists to come into the school to provide a therapy, and I think outside the box. Okay, so if that allows us, we have invited our agencies in our community. We have great partnership. If you have a mental health licensed therapist that is able and allowed to come into the schools to provide that additional support. But the caveat here is we make those referrals. If the parents do not give permission, that therapist cannot see the child. They can only get counseling as a related service. So we're trying